No robot lady though. There we
All
go.
right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Open Circle number 2. Let me do the clapper. Boom. That's for the editor. Not really, because it's all live. So, hey, what's up? Pat Flynn here. And we also have a couple amazing people from Team SPI here as well. We have Jillian and Tony. Jillian, Tony, welcome in.
Hello.
This should be super fun because we had done Open Circle before, and it was amazing. The response was absolutely incredible. And we're back, and we're going to do it again and again and again to continue to help you as you build your communities, whether you are a community manager yourself, you're an entrepreneur, maybe looking to start a community, maybe you have a Facebook community and you want to bring it over somewhere and actually start charging for that. We're going to talk about all the things as we go along here. But Jillian, what is our topic of today? Give us a little teaser of what we can look forward to.
Yeah, well, due to popular demand, we're going to talk about engagement. So last time was onboarding, getting people in the community, and today's okay, now what? So we're going to talk about how to keep your members engaged and interested, and some ideas and common roadblocks, all that fun stuff.
Love it. Tony, as somebody who's been in community and managing communities for a while now, what is your definition of engagement, and why is it important, real quick, before we let Jillian go crazy with the slides?
Yeah, I want to say I think it is about getting people's interests and motivations aligned around an action or a conversation that they all want to be having. And I think ultimately we can expand on that quite a bit, but we'll have plenty of time for that.
Definitely. Let me know if you're watching live right now and you're in the chat. Let me know about any communities that you own. What's the name of it, or what are you hoping to do, or tell us a little bit about your brand. We'd love to get to know you while we're here. We also have some incredible members of Team SPI in the chat as well. We have, you can see Jillian kind of multitasking. She's in there as well right now, which is awesome. But we have Jay and Jonathan and a few others as well. Also want to say hello to Dan and Resident Pixel. We got Yaya24. We got Boris from the Destiny Show, Tree Checkup. So that's John, David, Natalie, Clementina. Welcome, and everybody. Just so thankful you're here. Jillian, why don't you take the microphone and you can start running the show. And obviously, I will be here. Tony will be here. You can engage with us as you want us to help you. But this is your show today because you are in the community at SPI Pro all the time. For those of you who don't know SPI Pro is, maybe Jillian, you could start with that and run it. And I see you have a little tiny microphone.
You told me to take the mic. Thank you, Pat, for letting me any excuse to show my tiny TikTok microphone that is not plugged into anything, but I think the effect is well worth it.
Are you okay? I was like, you're not using it right now. It just
I am not.
Cool.
I'm using the Samsung Q2U as recommended in Power Up Podcasting.
Good
obviously.
Plug. Good plug. All right, take it away.
All right, I am gonna get some slides up. I'm super excited, everybody. Let me just get all my windows sorted here, which I could have done earlier, but where's the fun in that?
So we'll go for probably 45 minutes to an hour of content. You're welcome to ask questions along the way. There's a lot of Team SPI here to help you and support you in the chat. But then we'll save some time at the end for questions as well.
That's large. Absolutely. Yeah. And like most things I like to do in community, I like to keep it conversational. So if you got questions, like Pat said, throw them in the chat. I think Tony's kind of keeping an eye so he can bring things up to us as we go. But yeah, let's talk community, and don't mind all the cheesy graphics such as this, because buckle in. That's how I roll. So community engagement is a super hot topic. We can go very deep into this. I was joking, we could do a 10-hour masterclass. I think there's some community managers watching. Hello, I think I saw in the chat. So you all will know, like, some of the stuff we talk about today, it's just scratching the surface. And that's intentional, because depending on your community, the tactics kind of depends. So we're going to go high level. We can dig into some specifics if people have questions, but we're going to kick it off with that. And then maybe we'll come back another time and get deep if there's something really juicy. So something that I think is important to touch on, and this is a lot of I think Jay talked about this a bit in the last Open Circle, which a bunch of people are asking about getting the link for. So Jonathan, I think you're taking care of that in there. But knowing very clearly what your community purpose is will really help you dictate how you want to go about engagement. And when we talk about engagement, we're talking about your members posting, coming to your community, reacting, having conversations, and actually contributing, and not just being an audience member. We don't want an audience in this situation, right? We're looking for actual human connection, be it digital, in person. Most of what I'm talking about today is more digital leaning, but transferable. So there's lots of different types of communities. I think the big three are support communities, learning communities, and then just like common interest. See, there's Pat in his childhood, I think, playing Pokemon. Just kidding.
Of course.
Of course. I had to. It's just so easy. And when we think about like a support community, that could be support as far as like networking. So SPI Pro, which I realized I didn't even talk about. I just went right into it, but we'll get there. Don't worry. So it's maybe you have created a space for realtors to network and talk to each other and learn tricks and tips. That could be support. That could also be learning, right? Peer support is a very popular support group. I know we have a few people in SPI Pro and maybe even listening today that run a support group. So maybe it's a group for parents of kids with special needs. Maybe it's, caregivers. It's very common to want some sort of support group of other caregivers who understand what it's like, and they can support each other with emotional support, technical support, right? And then a lot of us, I think, have learning communities. Our academy is a very good example of a learning community. You purchase a course from us. You have the option to join a community that's of other people in the course, and you can talk through the lessons. You can start a mastermind. And I mean, it's up to you, right? And then, of course, Pokemon, like Pat could have a whole deep pocket Pokemon monster community where people just talk cards and trade cards. That could be a thing. Or like there's a lot of like golden doodle groups, things like that. So common interest is what brings people together. And it can be hard to get specific. As we were just talking about those, even my examples had some overlap, right? So it's like, well, which one is my community? And that's something worth thinking about. What's the top thing in your community? Is it a support community, or is it a group interest? Like, which one do you think, if you had to pick one, and kind of just focus on that? Because as Spider-Man knows, like, who knows, it can be confusing. So once you've, reestablished or just decided, yes, I know my community purpose, the next thing to think about, and again, this all has to do with engagement, is what are your big goals for that community? You might have a lot, right? I know in Pro, we have several, but what's the like top thing? And some very common things, and they kind of align with those last three general buckets. Like a support group might have the big goal of doing something, an outcome. So like reducing loneliness for caregivers. That's your big goal. That's what you care about. That's going to dictate how you're looking at engagement. Maybe your big goal is just money, straight up money. Like, I want recurring revenue. Okay. I mean, that's a choice, and that's going to have a different engagement strategy. Maybe, and you see this a lot in tech, is the goal is to launch a community, get it really, really big, really fast, and then sell it to a larger brand. That is going to have yet another strategy. So all of this just to say, like, this is kind of the foundation of, if you want to have really smart engagement tactics, if you're trying to take it up a notch and just not totally shoot in the dark. So let's talk about SPI Pro, and props to, this is our new branding. If Jay is in the chat looking, he worked hard to just flip Pro to have all of these colors, and I love them. So, and I'm, I could write a whole mission statement on Pro, but the purpose, high level, of Pro is we want to have a really safe place for like-minded entrepreneurs. So that's very much like people who believe in the ethos of Pat's brand. That's, serve first. How are you creating value? And we really, and that's the great thing about Pro, we really do that. So we want a place for those like-minded entrepreneurs to connect with each other, connect with us, collaborate, and then have the result of elevating their business. Our goal, and I have an asterisk here because we're going to hit our 2-year anniversary in July. And as far as like numbers, we've been intentionally keeping it around like 500 people as we make sure it's where we want it, testing things out. But right now, the goal is 500-ish active members. And that means we're focused on member retention. So keeping the people we have, and then that recurring revenue, because it is a paid community. There is a cost to join, and the money that we get from that helps us continue to do it better, add more programming, etc. So those are two things we really look at with our goal. So because of that, I need to move a window here. So if member retention is driving our engagement strategy, like questions to ask ourselves, what can we offer that makes people want to stay? Not just join, but stay and then participate, because we want them to be connecting and collaborating, right? How can we make the benefits of membership outweigh the cost, right? So for yourself in your community, think, why? Why should they log into your community today? With all the internet everywhere, with everyone with their cute little microphones on TikTok, why should they get off TikTok and come to your community? So that's a really powerful thing to ask yourself. And I think it can help you with some of this engagement stuff. Oops. Okay. Pat, should I check in? How you?
I'm doing great. Going? I mean, I'm listening in. Everybody's thrilled and excited. I think that is the question though, right? It's like, well, of all the places they could visit, why like here right now? And I have this goal and this vision of our members, like getting to the point where if they don't check in during the day, like something's missing, right? Like when you go to the gym and you have like a streak and it's like, oh, well, I forgot to go to the gym today, and you feel like almost bad about it. Like I don't want people to feel bad about not coming into pro, but we want it to become a part of a person's life in that way. And it's all these things that you're about to get into that are going to help us get to that point. And so keep listening, everybody, because this is good stuff coming up.
All righty. So I'm going to share just like a little bit of what we do in pro, and keep in mind our purpose and goals that I shared earlier when thinking about these, because these all are aligning with that. As far as like these two, connection and collaboration, financial is actually for them, benefit to them, not to us, but then it then helps us with the maintaining members. So for pro, because we want people to ultimately, we want their business to thrive, and we want to help them doing that. We want to help them do that through the connection and collaboration, right? So how do we do that? We host high value events. We bring in experts to do either demos. So like we've had experts come in for different platforms. Descript, however you want to say it, is a good example. Like they came in, showed us how it all works. People who use it were like, hey, how do I do this? And just went really deep with, the like product team of Descript, so that, it was just this like advanced, private session. Of course, we do the events with Pat, we do the AMAs, we do challenge of the month, Smart Tank last week, all sorts of things. We also just have networking get-togethers. Tony does an amazing job of just having kind of like, let's network, let's see who's in the room and talk about things and connect people. And we do happy hours, we do all sorts of things, and we offer replays of most of that content. We have opportunities for our members to be externally featured through us, through our channel. One of those events is Demo Day, actually on Friday. For anyone interested, you can tune in. We're going to live stream it on the Smart Passive Income YouTube. Tony is our master of ceremonies, and he's been working hard all quarter with pros, and they're going to present stuff they've been working on as kind of a showcase. So that gives them the opportunity to be associated with our brand in a way that we know a lot of people find value to have that association, and we love our members, so we want to shout them out. And then we offer member benefits, and you might not think of that as an engagement tactic, but it kind of is, especially if one of your bigger goals of your community is reducing churn, which is reducing people leaving, right? So if they have really great benefits, that's another reason for them to come log in. That's another reason for them to interact with your content, sometimes your greater content. Like every pro gets access to all the workshops that we have complimentary, and they can do that whenever during their pro membership. So that's a cool, just a little bonus, right? And then again, the connection and collaboration. We are always looking for ways to connect pros with each other, especially when you have a few hundred people and new people coming in quarterly, because that's the model we use for enrollments. I'm always like, I try to know what people are good at, what they're working on as much as I can. so that I can be like, oh, you should talk to this person, or, ooh, you should connect with this person. They also play pickleball, or, whatever it is. We also launched a help wanted space. So oops. Oh no. So there it is. I thought I'd put a picture here, but I guess I didn't. I took it and then didn't add it to the slide. Classic. We have a space in SPI Pro where if I need an editor for my podcast, I can go there. And if there might be, oh, you know what, Brian with Awesome Pros, that's like what they do. That's their business. He can see that and be like, oh, I can help you out. I mean, obviously they pay each other for their services and whatnot, or it might be, I need guests on my podcast, whatever it is. Circle launched a really snazzy new member directory that has some really cool searchable tools. So we took that and ran with it. And all credit to Jay and Mindy for implementing it. Now pros can choose to say, like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I do via tags, member tags. So now if I'm like, ooh, I need to find a coach because I need accountability help, which I probably should do. I can go in and search coaches, accountability, things like that, and I can find people on my own. So I'm not just relying on the community manager to connect me to people. I can go and do it myself. Regular outreach, that's me, that's Tony, that's Known, that's Jay, that's our team, sending messages, sending emails to people, just checking in, being like, hey, I know you're really busy with that launch. How you doing? So it's just that like high touch. And then of course I mentioned earlier, so we have a cohort model. Every quarter we do an enrollment, and each quarter, actually in the chat, everybody who's in pro, why don't you put your cohort in? Let us know what cohort you're in. We'll wait. Just kidding. While we're waiting, this is a big thing. So if you're the Q221 crew, like that's who you are, and you have an emoji assigned to it. Our Q321s, which I'm not seeing anything, so I feel like nervous now that I called that out.
There's a delay though, Jillian. So
okay,
you have
good.
to realize that. Yeah, you're good.
I know
Just
you guys are there. I see you talking. So Q321, they're a lightning bolt, like they pick the emoji. So they have kind of like this it's like a, high school classes, like who are the seniors, who are the freshmen? They all have, this identifier that kind of brings them together in these smaller groups within this larger community. And we have financial incentives to be a member, which it works really well for the type of community we are, right? Like if you're a dog lovers community, maybe that doesn't work, or maybe it does. Maybe you have a PetSmart affiliate program. I don't know. But the point is, our members can actually make money with us through a couple of programs we have. And they can make a lot of money if they want to. And so basically it's like, how can we make this community so good you'd be crazy to leave it? That's kind of the background of that. So looking at that as strategy and engagement strategy, let's dive more into like programming, because a big part of engagement, like people are here, okay, they're in the doors. Oh, okay. I see some cohorts. Thank you.
Yeah,
y'all.
they're coming in now.
Good.
They're coming in. So it's like
nervous.
a minute or two delay, Jillian.
Okay.
No worries. I do want to ask you a question really quick before we move on. You know, there's a couple of people here, and I'm sure people who aren't saying anything that might be a little overwhelmed from this huge laundry list of items that we might be able to do. No, that's okay. Like, this is the perfect time. Like, do we have to do all of them in order to have an engaging community?
No. Oh gosh, absolutely not. And okay, let's do a disclaimer that I should have done earlier. SPI Pro is run by a team, right? This is not a one person bootstrapped community. So this is certainly like how you can do it high level. I've been in community as a profession for over a decade. This is like advanced. Okay. And we'll get into like how to pick what works for you, but don't ever feel like you have to do it all. And with everything in community, start small and build upon it. So even if we were just, and this list I'm about to go through, these are just ideas. Which one makes the most sense for you, given your time, given your interest, and given what kind of community you have? Give it a try. Okay.
And you can do it on your own. Like, there are people who have amazing communities on their own, but you have to be real with yourself. If you're on your own and you're like, I'm going to do live events and, some challenges and these other things, and also coordinate masterminds. It's like, okay, well, hold up. Like, you're just one person. What of all these things would be the most valuable to start with? And then you can add on to that once those systems are in place and or other team members are there to help you. So just a little bit of grounding. I think is good, but any of these
Very
things
good call.
can be awesome for engaging. So why don't we go through these?
Yeah. And I think too, if I show you like the events we do and stuff like that, take that and just slash it. What if you did a live event a month? Awesome. If that's doable, right? Like when I say live events, I don't mean you have to have 6 events every week. Absolutely not. We don't even do that in Pro because no one has time for that. So here's some types of engagement programming. And to Pat's point, this is very much a la carte. Live events are fantastic, especially now because community platforms have come a long way. We used to be stuck with Facebook groups or Reddit subreddit, or, kind of building a community within a big platform that wasn't dedicated. And now we have things like Circle, we have Mighty Networks, there's so many things, Geneva chat, they're just popping up everywhere. So it's a lot easier to have more organized and like professional feeling events. So live events are great. And that can be anything. Again, it can be an AMA. It can be just a get together. It can be a happy hour. It could be a watch party. Like this could be just depending on what your community wants. Sometimes people just want to hang out. And, we all have Zoom fatigue. So maybe it's not your priority and that's okay. Asynchronous events are a lot like content schedule or like a planned calendar. So this is a good example. This highs and lows over here on the screen every Friday. It's a ritual in Pro we post highs and lows for the week of whatever that Friday is. And it's an opportunity for everyone in the community to share like what went good, maybe what was hard, etc., and get support because sometimes someone's like, it's my 200th episode of my podcast and they're celebrating and that's amazing. And other times it's like, I had a horrible week. I got nothing done that I wanted to. I was sick, whatever. And there's people there to support you. So it's asynchronous, but it's predictable. Every Friday, this is happening. And it's successful when you forget to post it and people are like, where's the weekly highs and lows? And like, that's an oopsie, but it's also a measure of success. Because if people are counting on it, then you're doing something right. The asynchronous events can also be things like just starting a discussion. So that like a forum-based discussion, which is a big part of Circle, right? It's very forum-based. And so that can just be, again, with the content schedule. On Fridays, we do weekly wins. Maybe on Tuesdays, it's Tip Tuesday. And it can be 2 things a week. Again, this doesn't have to be crazy, but just have something predictable that's happening in your community and your community gets used to. There's a rhythm to it. That's a really great way to at least people know if they're still unsure where they fit. They know they can go to that one thing and start commenting and interacting and maybe making some friends. Impromptu content is one of my favorite things to do. And that's just a random post. Like someone posted, what was that, a few weeks ago about an auction that's happening. And they were auctioning off a hoverboard from the set of Back to the Future 2, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And so they're like, Pat, check this out. And then it turned into this whole, and someone else created that, right? But it was very on brand because we all know Pat loves Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3.
I do.
It's true. And so someone posted it and then I went and found the auction, like the actual site, and we were posting things on it. And it just was like fun and silly. And even though we're a professional, group, we have a lot of fun. So just that kind of impromptu stuff can be great. And sometimes you get your best ideas from it. You could post like everybody, share a picture of yourself when you were a child and what would you say to that person, and that can be funny and silly because we all have those pictures in the bathtub and whatnot. But it can also be like, I wish I'd tell myself to believe in myself, like it can get heavy, but in a good way. The sky's the limit. So this opportunities to connect with you one-on-one, this is especially important for all of you who are either like coaches or service-based, and you're struggling with bandwidth. Having a weekly kind of, whether it's office hours or where people can sign up to talk to you, but having it in a very specific time. And it's like, hey, I do this once a week. That's a fantastic way to offer that time with people and that individual attention without running yourself dry. So if you have like a group membership and people get group coaching, but then they want more from you and you're feeling spread thin, you can create programming to protect your boundaries, but also give people what they want just within an acceptable model. So this could be one-on-one. It could be like, I have, part of your membership is you get a 30-minute call with me every quarter, whatever that makes sense for you and your situation. Or it's, hey, every week, like Jay does office hours every week in our community, and it's whoever wants to come can come and be a part of it. So it's a group, but they take turns, and each person has a turn to say what they're working on. And, the whole, kind of the whole group gives feedback, but Jay kind of steers the boat and gives his feedback. And often he has experience in whatever they're talking about. And it's just a really, really great value to people who show up. And then of course there's replays for people who, so even if I can't come, if I watch it, I'm going to learn so much from it. Right. And then of course, membership perks. So that was what we talked about earlier, like what benefits beyond just the community can you offer? You'd be surprised how much that actually impacts engagement, especially if you want to talk about it. So for example, the workshops that we offer in Pro, we've done before. We did a cash flow fundamentals kind of class. So after that came out, Matt did that, was hoarse, very hoarse afterwards. And a group of people who in Pro who really liked it, we created a small little group and week by week went through the content and talked about it. That, that workshop is already included. And then we're just creating like this kind of group activity. Even had Matt come in and kind of host some events around it. So there's so many things you can do to get like highly engaged touch points within your community. Okay, before we get into this, Pat, let me check in. What are you thinking?
We're doing good. I am answering some questions that are in the chat.
Excellent.
With relation to, well, hey, would one live event be enough? It could be. If you're going to do it that way, make it a can't miss event. I mean, make it the best event that nobody can miss. And that way it could still provide value. And then you're allowing for asynchronous communication to happen within, a form of some sort, whether it's Circle or even a Facebook group can still be useful in that way in between sort of events like that. There's a question with relation to, the difference between having a community with all these kinds of things versus one with that's sort of on the back end of an online course with one-on-one coaching. I think it's really a mix. I think the most important thing is to, as you approach the creation of your community or the community that you have now and what you'd like to have it mold into, is to look at this a la carte list and consider, well, what are the things here that might be most valuable? And what are some things that I could literally cross off because they either wouldn't be valuable or just, I don't want to do it. And you have to have a little bit of excitement to get up and do these things, of course, because it will require some time and effort. But at the same time, you can start with a minimum viable community. I had answered Boris's question from the Destiny show about, well, not having a lot of time and that sort of thing. Well, do the 20% of the things that give you 80% of the results, right? And then you can learn over time. And then over time, you might see that there might be an opportunity to promote some people who are in the community to become more like administrators or moderators, which empower them and get them more excited about showing up. And you can offer, with tools like Circle, you could offer just little portions of your community open to everybody, for example, to get them in, and then you can open and introduce them to the rest of the stuff later. There's a lot of ways to do it, but this idea of office hours, Auron, we did not create, I didn't invent it. I mean, I think it was quote unquote invented in universities when students wanted time to come in, but professors were busy. So they said, okay, well, you can come in and we can talk, but only at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. And that's kind of what it's like, what Jillian was saying. You can protect your time in that way, but still offer time for others to come in and hop in. And I've been offering office hours for my course students for over 5 years now. And I think that now that we're adding office hours into SPI Pro as well, it just adds another element of connection. And sometimes it's just even knowing that office hours exist, even if people don't use them, but the fact that they're there if a person needs it offers a peace of mind that is also worth paying for, or being a part of the community for. So yeah, just a little bit of an insert there. I'd love for Tony to talk really quick about the co-working thing, because that's so new to me as something to do online. I think definitely it became popular during the pandemic, but Tony, this is kind of your wheelhouse, and like, what is this and why is it valuable?
Yeah, co-working, I mean, we could talk about it a lot. I ran a co-working space in Manhattan for a long time, but I've done virtual co-working gatherings as well. And the fact of the matter is a lot of us are working by ourselves in our house. And I don't know about you, but I'm surrounded by temptations for distraction. And so having a little bit of accountability, having some sense of, I'm going to meet people at a time, I'm going to tell them what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to tell them if I did it or not. Just having that little sense that I'm not alone. There are other people who've made time to come here and get something done. It inspires me. Frankly, I mean, I'm so amazed at the hustle of some of the folks that I get to work with. And it just gives me that little bit of structure. And then you get that added bonus also of being able to celebrate what you did. So when you achieve something, you have people to talk to about it. And it's a really powerful thing. And the nice thing about co-working is you could do it in so many different contexts. You can do it, online, just chatting with each other. We use this work from platform to create a virtual cafe. You can do it in person. You can do it in a park. There's a lot of places you can co-work.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tony. To answer a couple questions here before handing it back to Jillian, Heidi's asking, do you offer office hours for just specific courses or one office hour for sort of all students and past students to come into? I actually had run separate office hours for every course initially until our course library became so big that it just made sense to consolidate. And I'm actually thankful we consolidated because I wish we had done that sooner. There are cross connections that are happening that wouldn't have happened otherwise. There are people getting questions answered in one course and they actually have the same question from a student in another course. So it actually is better because of that. And it also saves me time. So that's number one. And then number two question from Love here is, what's the difference between offering a course in an online course or in a community? So as far as like the content is concerned, you could have what we call a pre-recorded course, right? Where it is available in maybe a platform like Teachable, for example, where a person purchases it or get access to it and then can kind of go through the course content on their own. But there really isn't any communication happening other than, the ability to ask a question in the comment section and hopefully get an answer. The idea of having it alongside a community is similar to like a cohort-based style where you're actually doing it with others. And even if it's not done live, like a traditional cohort-based course, even if it's pre-recorded, having like a timeline of, okay, this week we're all going to go through this stuff and let's come together in a working session like Tony was talking about, and let's crank through the content together and get our work done. Or, hey, let's come in on Monday. I'm going to answer your questions about that section of the course that you just took together with other members. And that's the difference. And typically that's going to be of higher value because of that. And you can charge more for that as well. But different people have different learning styles. And so you could run both. We run both. We have pre-recorded as well as cohort-based boot camps is what we call them. And both are very successful for the people who want to learn in that specific way. So there's a lot of ways to do it. And it's really fun because as you go along, you can find sort of your groove and what your style is and what your audience prefers. And then you scale up from there. Jillian, how are you doing? You're doing awesome.
Mic drop.
Should we keep it going? Mini mic drop?
Mini mic. I don't actually want to drop it.
Where did you get that, by the way? Really quick, because it's like so iconic now in the world of TikTok to have a tiny
Jeff
little microphone.
Bezos. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. He hand delivered it to you.
He did. It was 2 for 1. My daughter might be getting one too. And I was like, oh, look, I can do 2 for 1 and then I can have one early because I'm horrible.
Love it.
It's a lot of fun. So let's talk about how we're measuring success, because you put effort into programming and then it's like, well, did it work? Right? How do you know other than people showed up, right? And how can you kind of get a little strategic about what you're doing? And here's the good news. Unless you're like me and in a role at a company, you don't have to mess with data that much. You don't have to be up in the math. It's great if you have your own community, but there are some very, very basic metrics that are valuable to keep an eye on. A big one for us, and again, this is because we want to retain members. We don't want people to leave. We want people to join and participate and stay. So churn is something I look at pretty much every day. It's a very depressing metric, and churn means people leaving, right? They churn out of the membership. So that's cancellations. But it's good to keep an eye on. And I know now that we have, been in place for about 1.5 years, I know the kind of wane, that the predictable wane, like it's very, over time people will leave because for whatever reason, and that's okay. We of course wish them the best and everything. But if all of a sudden a bunch of people leave, instead of panicking, I can look at the historical data and be like, yeah, okay, we're right before another enrollment. This is generally when people will leave, or we're coming up to the holidays. Money can be tight for people. We get it, and so this might be one of the things that they have to sacrifice to get through the holidays the way they want to get through it, or, whatever it is. So having some historical data, which I would say like monthly, that's all. You don't need to go any more granular than monthly. If you're using any community platform, they should have some basic built-in metrics that you can look at. It seems pretty obvious, but how many posts did your members make last month? And what about the month before? You know what I mean? And so if you just kind of month over month, pay attention to that, maybe have a little spreadsheet and track it. And then you'll get to see, oh, sorry, I just saw Mendy's question. Let's get to that. Don't let me forget that one about transitioning off of Facebook to a paid community. We'll get there. Because that's, I'm very passionate about that, as the team knows. So just kind of like that month to month. So I know in my many years of doing community with confidence, depending on the type of community, can kind of depend what the engagement looks like. So if you are an emotional support community, your metrics, your engagement are going to go higher around the holidays, because traditionally, if someone's needing, emotional support, sometimes people need it a lot more during the holidays because they're lonely, because their family's awful, because their family's great, but they need an escape. There's just a lot of reasons. That is, in the mental health world, that is, November through like January can be very tough for people. And so you'll know, okay, I need to be ready for that. Versus if you are running a group that's primarily, moms of small children, that like August is going to be quiet because they're going back to school. They're going on their vacations before school goes back, things like that. So there's different things. In general, summer, there's a little bit of a slump in community in summer, wherever you live, summer, that is, depending on what side of the equator you're on, because people tend to travel a lot. The weather can, depending where you live again, but for the most of us, be nicer, so you kind of see those things. You start to recognize, and specific to your community, like what's the waxing and the waning of normal engagement. But it also helps you see if there's a huge dip and something's happening. You might be like, ooh, we really need to revisit how we do this programming, or we need to try something else. Event participation is super easy. If you're doing live events or even asynchronous events, just keeping an eye like, oh, how many people showed up? How many people RSVP'd but didn't show up? Things like that. And then of course, surveys are amazing. And so survey results are a great way. We'll talk about it a little more in a bit, but great way to just kind of measure your success. Are you hitting the mark for your community members? And just continually asking yourself, is the community serving its purpose? And I challenge you to think about it, the purpose as far as what the members want, not like making money. So are your members happy with their membership, what they're getting out of it? I just really liked this like high C Kool-Aid looking concoction here. So we've talked about a bunch of different ways, events, like different types of engagement opportunities and things. I want to just highlight that community is messy. No two communities are the same. There's no one way to do it. I can't hand you a book of like step 1, 2, 3, happily ever after. You have to just try things. You have to ask your members, hey, I did this event. Nobody showed up. Are y'all interested in this? Or was it just, something else? And you might hear, I host an event, a late night event, because we have a lot of people in Australia and New Zealand and kind of that like general, like a few people in China and places like that. And so we have an Oceania meetup and there were a couple that nobody came to. And so I just reached out individually. I was like, hey, no one showed up this month. Is this, is it not worth the time? Like, can I get some feedback? And it was kind of like, oh, I've just been busy because of that, for them, that time of the year is just busy. And so I was like, does this time work? Confirmed it. And now, we have our regular group. So asking your members, checking in, and then just trying different things, like adding that event that was new. I was like, oh, maybe we should do this because we don't have a lot of, evening events. So maybe this will be of value. It is, talking to other community builders. So this is super valuable, especially if you're just kind of getting into communities. So in Pro, this is a common thing. We have a lot of business owners who are launching communities or who have communities that want to talk about it. And it's just nice to talk to other people in that situation because you can figure out what worked for them and then maybe get ideas. So joining a community for community builders is super valuable because people get it. I mean, I tell people that I'm a community manager and they think I oversee an apartment building. Like even, in real life, it can be hard to find people who really get it. So go to digital life, go to internet life and find other people doing it to talk to and have your own support community, if you will. And then, the tools available to you, depending on whatever platform or style of community you're doing. For example, notifications. They can be your best friend and they can be your worst enemy. So just check and be like, what is the, what's the default setting for notifications? Maybe it's way too much. Maybe you're overloading people. So now they've just ignored everything. Or maybe you're underutilizing notifications and you can have a notification strategy. So you only send, you only make posts that will give people an in-app or email notification if it's a very special kind of thing. So people pay attention to it, right? There's so many things you can try, and just being willing to experiment and be creative is such a huge part of it. Okay. I'm going to go into common issues, just a couple of the big ones, but just want to check in.
Yeah, this is great.
We good?
Absolutely great. Yeah, let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going.
There are questions that are coming in. We'll save them till the end though for you.
Okay, perfect. I'm trying not to look at the shiny object that is the chat. I want to hang out in there so bad, but I will wait. So issues, there's a gazillion things that can go wrong in community. Community is messy. Community is humans, and humans are messy. It's fine. These are the ones that I find stress people out the most, outside of things like boundaries, community guidelines and all that. That's a whole other wonderful ball of wax I'd love to talk about at some point, but we will save it. I will just say protect yourself first. So very common issues that can feel very devastating, especially when you're first starting out, is you create events, you do this thing, and no one shows up. Like I was talking about that Oceania thing, and I was there, no one else came, so I gave up that month anyways, right? So it's a very real thing. And especially when you first launch programming, it might take people a while. So how do we get to, this was the closest picture I could find to that other one. And I think it's funny, it's Air Force because I live in Colorado. So really look at the programming and events you're putting on and really nurture them and spend time. So this, you are Sarah, you're distracting. I have to just not look. Really focus on like nurturing those. So that question earlier about, well, is it feasible to just do one event a month? Absolutely. And make sure people know about it. What's the agenda? Get people excited about it. So all month long, they're like, ooh, on the 16th, there's this event. I can't miss it because it's going to be all these things that are of high value to me. So really spend the time making sure people know about it. That can be very hard, especially as your community grows. Awareness about all the things going on, especially as you build onto things. People miss out. I mean, sometimes people will ask me about something now and I'm like, oh my gosh, in Pro. And I'm like, how did you not know about that? We talk about it all the time, but in the way they use Pro, they didn't see that stuff. So it reminds me, I need to be creative about how I'm doing outreach so that people know about the programming, right? Personally invite people. So we had a SEO panel. We had a bunch of pros that do SEO in their profession that are experts in SEO. And we had them come and do a panel where other pros showed up and asked questions, right? People I knew that had been asking a lot of questions about that or who were building websites, I sent them a message and said, hey, this event is perfect for you. You should come to this. Here's a link to all the information. So I'm reaching out personally to people to be like, this is something you want to go to. Like I said about the Oceania thing where no one showed up, ask for feedback, consider what the pain points are to your members to participate. It might be that the platform you use doesn't have an app and they're always on their phone and the mobile version is really clunky, or it does have an app and the app doesn't show the things the way you thought it did. And so people aren't actually seeing things the way you thought they were because you're always on desktop. That's like a personal one for me. I have to go and check the app and be like, how does this look for people using the app? Because I use desktop because it's my job. So I'm doing it all day. Right. And then maybe it's as simple as, oh, you're doing this thing on a Friday. Everybody's checked out. They're ready for the weekend. So they're not paying attention to your community. What if you did it on a Wednesday? What if you did it on a Tuesday? Ask, see, like, is it, what's a good day for this thing that people want to do, but aren't showing up to? So really just paying attention to all that. And this is where it goes back to less is more. Start small, get something working really, really well. And then based on member feedback, consider adding something else to your programming, right? So it's very organic. Don't just launch in with that huge list of things I showed you and then be totally overwhelmed and not having a lot of engagement. Oops. Okay. I love this SpongeBob so much.
He's so sad.
He's so sad, but he has coffee, so that's good. Okay. Another super common one, and this is less about events, just more about in the community day to day. Members aren't posting. So maybe you're posting things. Maybe you're doing that content like we talked about, on Wacky Wednesday or whatever it is. You have your couple days that you post the reliable thing. Maybe people engage in that, but otherwise no one's posting on their own. There's not what we call it UGC, user generated content is the very sterile way to say it. But people aren't starting conversations on their own. And that's really something you want in your community, pretty much every community, I would say. So there are a few ways to encourage this. And I will remind you that if you're running a community, you're probably fairly comfortable in community. And you need to take a step back and think about it with the beginner's mind and think, okay, if I just like walked into this room and all these people are already talking to each other and doing this stuff, like how would I feel? How would I feel comfortable jumping in? And the truth is, members, especially when you launch something new or they're new, especially when they're new, they want to see how to participate. They want to be able to read the room and then engage in the, by the rules, which community guidelines are a great way to give people a feel. But that next step of people feeling comfortable posting and not being afraid that, either someone's going to be rude or they won't do it right or anything like that. Because it happens. I mean, I think we've all been or seen a situation where someone's just like, doesn't get it. And they post something in a group and everyone's like, what are you doing? Why are you, no one wants to be that person, hopefully. Right. So Pat alluded to this earlier. You're going to have people hopefully in your community, especially if you started with like a small group, like a beta founders group. Those are your people. So start with them. Ask them to make some posts. Be like, hey, do you mind? Like, would you try just like once a week, if you could, just like posting an article you found or an observation you have? We have a lot of members that do this. Like Mike Lander just jumps into my brain because he just finds amazing resources and stuff and posts them and starts conversation, often about community. It's fantastic. So him doing that, I've noticed other people have started doing it. We have a guy, Justin, who decided to launch, he does YouTube and has several channels, and he decided to launch another channel and document the process in Pro. So he is building in public, which we're always asking people to do. Now that he's doing it, other people are starting to do it because they see how valuable it is, both for him to document what he's doing, but also for everybody interested in wanting to launch a YouTube channel to see like, well, how he's very successful in this. How did he go about this? A lot of times, especially if you're the face of the community, people will come directly to you, and that's fantastic. And I wouldn't say like, don't respond to them. Of course do, but remind them, especially if it's something that you think your community could answer better, remind them like, you should post that here in this space. You can see here, and using my finger to point at my screen, which you cannot see, but you can see all these different spaces. This is just a fraction, frankly, but say John here, who's in the comments, tree checkup. That's John Snow, who was the member of the week, October 15th. If you see that, John might ask me a question about community building, right? I might say, oh, good question. Here's what I think. But you should post this in our member community space to see what other people think, because you'll get way more, feedback than just from me. And that's always a good thing. That's more valuable to everybody, right? So refer people back to posting publicly, and make sure it's a safe place where they're posting. They shouldn't be getting eaten alive, right? And that goes back to community guidelines, which will be another day. And then positive reinforcement. And that's why I have this big screenshot here. We have a member spotlight area that we started, and we have a member of the week, and other pros can nominate that person, or our team can nominate. It just kind of depends what's going on that week. I mean, we all do it. So in this screenshot, it looks like Brian was the most, Brian was the most recent one. Brian asked if he could take over our book club and make it better. Absolutely, Brian, right? So I shouted out, hey, look, Brian wants a certain kind of programming in Pro. Brian is going to do it. That's awesome. I'm shouting that out. It's a positive reinforcement to remind people they can do that. And then, maybe he needs help and someone's going to see this and be like, ooh, I want to help with the book club, right? I'm shouting it out. It's a positive reinforcement. Everybody who's nominated for member of the week is doing something awesome in Pro. They're being an awesome member. We're shouting that out. So people see, oh, that's the kind of behavior, at least the community, the leaders of the community are looking for. And more often than not, people, when they know that, they're like, cool, that's how I'm going to participate moving forward. Oh, Maxine got nominated because she decided to lead one of our mastermind groups and just blew it out of the water, just like from the get-go, just amazing. So we gave her a shout out. Now people know, like, oh, that's cool. Like they really, not that it matters, like, oh, Jill approves of me. It's not about that. It's about like, this person is doing something amazing for this community. I want to do that too. Oh, that was my final. Okay. Let's do another check-in, and then I have a little challenge for everybody.
Ooh, a challenge. Yeah. Speaking of challenges, we just finished our most recent challenge inside of SPI Pro to give you a little bit of idea of like what we do as far as programming. One thing we like to do every month is challenge our Pro members. And sometimes they're small, easy challenges. Other times they might take a little bit more time and a little bit more effort and stepping out of a person's comfort zone. And last month, or the month of October, we ran the second big challenge, which is tied into an event that we call the Smart Tank. The Smart Tank is like the moment where we go live and we announce like the winners of this thing, and we recognize people who have participated and also those who really went above and beyond, and recognize them. And the person who's first place gets to get a spot on the SPI podcast. And it was really, really fun. The challenge was to have people record a 60-second video that tells a story about somebody in their audience. Prior to that, we did one where it was a 60-second video to help people with their pitches. So pitch your business in 60 seconds in a way that people can understand and resonate with. And both of those have been super great. So we're going to be putting our heads together here for the next one. And it was just super fun. So that's like an idea of like a coordinated event that people can then look forward to. Today was the AMA. I do an AMA inside of what we call Pat's Corner inside of SPI Pro every single month. And I answer anywhere between 30 to 80 questions within a 2-hour period, sort of like a Reddit version of an Ask Me Anything versus like a live thing. So people can easily find those questions and answers later. So it's just so much fun. And honestly, of all the feedback I've ever gotten from anything that I've ever created since 2008, and I've created a lot of things, I've never had this kind of feedback on anything. And what's really interesting about this is when we zoom out a little bit, you're like, wow, Pat, you're not even like the face of SPI Pro. I mean, SPI is your brand, but actually Jillian is more of the face of SPI Pro versus me, which just shows you that if you build this thing in a way that connects the right people together, whether it's team members, but also the right community together, this thing can begin to, over time, take a life of its own, where you can just let it be and show up in minimal parts here and there. Now, I am talking to a lot of people through DMs and connecting with people individually there, which is where I'm spending most of my time. But it just shows you that you can build something amazing that actually doesn't take a ton of time after you invest that time up front and give it some really good thought. And use a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today. So just a little bit of a fun sort of share out, if you will. I'm just looking forward to the next challenge because they're so much fun.
They are fun.
So we have a challenge now. What is the challenge?
We have a challenge. Okay. Da, 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 da. Oh, and then of course my keyboard didn't work. Oh, come on. All right. Okay. So I am challenging everyone here to benchmark your community's happiness rating. And I totally made that up. It's a bunch of jargon. So don't be like, wait, what does that mean? And all that means is think about creating an annual survey that you can start now. It's a great time to do this, end of the year, wrapping up for next year. Also, planning what your strategy is for next year. So it doesn't have to be very long, just a few questions, and ask your community members to tell you. If you want to, you can make it anonymous. If you want like the serious info, you can make it not anonymous. So you can follow up with people, which frankly, I'd probably do it that way. But just ask them like, what is going well? And like, you can do a ranked scale on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is, the worst and 10 is the best. Like, what do you think about the community? What do you think about the events? Specifically ask questions about the things that you think are your community purpose and what you think people want in the community. But then also ask, how can we improve? Did I say approve? How can we improve? Like, what are some things? And ask even some open-ended questions, right? Ask like, hey, what's the hardest part for you to participate in the community? And they might be like, oh, I don't like the platform because I use an iPad and it doesn't work well. And so then that, going in and not everything is something you can fix, but having the awareness helps you strategize. Engagement specific questions. So I could ask like everybody in the chat, in the last 2 months, how many live events in Pro did you attend or do you think? And some people can be like 0, they're not at a good time for me. And then I'm like, oh, really? Okay. What is a good time for you? Right. And then I can start thinking, well, maybe I should start staggering the times I offer events, because people are doing this. This isn't their full-time job to be in my community, right? They do this on their own time. So how can I best accommodate their schedules so they come to the events? Because that's my job. I want the most people to come as possible that want to come. Or I can say, ooh, 2 a.m. is never going to work for me, but I can organize a watch party for people in your time zone so you can all get together, watch the replay and discuss, right? Like there's just so many things you can do with a survey. This could be 5 questions. This could be 20 questions. It could be long form. It could be multiple choice. The point is, if you have a community, no matter how big or small, it's a great thing to do annually to kind of do a bigger, like the state of the community. But you can also look at doing like quick little monthly ones too, just one question once a month, and have people like constantly be asking your community. And a survey is a great way to do it. You can incentivize it or not. You can just say, hey, here it is, and the interested people will participate. But ultimately, I challenge everybody to try it now before the end of the year and see what kind of information you get and what kind of ideas come from that.
Yeah, Boris is going to do it right now. I see it
right now, Boris.
The Destiny show. So thank you for that. I think that's so important. And I know a lot of people, when we are tasked to ask our audience or our customers or our students a question like, well, how did that go for you? We often don't ask that because we're afraid of what we're going to hear, right? We don't want to hear that maybe it wasn't the best that it could be. But when you really think about it, your job and you have an obligation to create the best experience that you can. And so wouldn't it make sense to know about these things ASAP so that you can adjust and not necessarily fix every little thing like Jillian was saying, but to at least be aware so you can empathize with the community and better understand how to serve them better. So maybe, yeah, the iPad experience doesn't work here, but maybe this is a good solution that could work, or we can at least have a person know that we understand where they're coming from and we've pushed something over to the Circle to hopefully fix that. And that is enough, to know that, hey, we got your back, right? And I think that's really important. But how could you not ask these things, right? And I know that there's going to be some pain in reading some of this stuff, but that pain is so much less than the pain of not doing anything or asking any questions, and then a person leaving and never being able to serve them ever again because nobody knows anything about what's going on. So I highly recommend doing that. I think that's absolutely key. So Jillian, I appreciate you challenging everybody who has a community there. And even if you have a free community on Facebook, for example, this is a great time of the year to ask questions about that community. and what else they might want or need, and things that could inform decisions that you might make for the next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always good to check in with your members. The things you discover, like I said, you're not going to do everything they ask for. And you're going to want to ask yourself, okay, does this align with my community purpose and my goals? Right. But it doesn't mean you can't hear them. And whether it's saying like, oh, I love that idea. That is not something we could take on in this community. But hey, my buddy Tony runs this other community you might be interested in, if you dare. I'm a big fan of helping people find the resources they need, even if it might mean them leaving you, because that's the ultimate goal. It's not my own, like, oh, well, I want that person to get the best resources they can. Right.
Right. And when they get served in that way, maybe they leave, but then they bring 2 more people in who know that would be perfect for the community. Is one of your lava lamps like tripping out for some reason? It's like the other ones are just still.
Tony brought this up before too. I was like, why? What's it doing? That one's glitter. It's not lava.
It's glitter. I thought it was like electricity or something was going haywire there.
No,
That's hilarious.
That's the party lamp. The other 2, I didn't turn on early enough to get any good lava action for this.
I think another thing with community is as you show up in the way that you want to show up, like just be you, right? You don't have to, because you're owning a community, you have to have this like suit and tie on or whatever. Just be you. I mean, look at my background. I have like Star Wars stuff and Back to the Future stuff and, the shield from Legends of Zelda. And you have these really cool, very trippy lava lamps. And Tony has some drawings and other things in the background. Like just be you. Like you don't like, just be you. And people will love that, because then what that means is people can be themselves in the community, and they're going to be more comfortable. And the more comfortable they are, the more likely they are going to open up. Another thing I want to share before we get into questions. First of all, Jillian, thank you so much for that presentation.
Of course. Happy to help.
Leading by example is really key. Jay mentioned this the last time in Open Circle number 1. You mentioned it again, and I want to reiterate it. It's this idea of, well, if you want a person to do something like leave a message, or even better yet, create a video message to respond to something, well, then go and do it first, right? Or ask people perhaps one-on-one, which I know, Tony, you were sort of like +1ing in the chat, the idea of like personalizing that ask. Versus an email blast or a blog post or something, for example. So important. And then when somebody sees that somebody else has already done it, well, then they're more likely to do it, because most people don't want to be first, right? I mean, some people do, but in most cases, when there are other examples of people doing things in a community, we're still on the internet. The internet still, to many people and most people, we're very guarded, and we want to keep things safe, and we don't want to put ourselves out there as much. But when people see that others are doing it before them, then they're more likely to step up and do it, which then enables the community to connect with each other. And I also want to point back something that you said earlier about the idea of like making introductions for people. That is so cool. And I've seen you do that before. You even get to the point where sometimes you say, hey, Pat, like I saw this message, you may have missed it. I think that you'd be a great person to answer it, right? And doing that, not just for like other team members, but for other people in the community. Once you get to know people, it creates these really amazing connections, just like a brain, right? The connections in our brain about certain things keeps that brain healthy and keeps the wires firing. Well, you can become that person who sort of puts these people together. And when you do that, this thing takes a life of its own, and it's a beautiful living thing. This community is a living thing. And I think that's awesome. Tony, do you have any thoughts before we get into the Q&A?
No, I'm just excited to get into the Q&A. There is so much chat going on right now, and I'm loving it.
Yes, for sure. I'm going to read some questions and also read some comments from the chat here, and we'll kind of take it from there. Michael says, thanks. The community purpose would be to focus on encouragement to those in need, might not be the right forum for that purpose. Okay, so this was answering, I think, something else. Is this being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded literally as we speak. It'll be here as a replay as soon as we finish, in fact. Honey Smith Wall says, loves the inspiration. Got to run next time. Thank you. Do you have any incentives, like a giveaway to complete the survey? Like, what are some good examples of an incentive for a giveaway?
Absolutely. You can do all sorts of things. I mean, first of all, consider your time, your budget, and where your community members are geographically located. So I say that because you could do a giveaway of something like a digital product, which is really easy, right? And that kind of covers it all. You could
An
also
hour
do
of my time, right? Like you can offer
right?
access.
Yeah. But then of course, think about, well, how would that work? What if 50 people respond?
Exactly.
Right. You could do a special AMA just for the people who respond. So then it's an hour and you're serving all those people at once, and they're going to get value of hearing each other's things. You could send them something like a physical sticker, a book, a card. It could be anything, but that's where like budget comes in. And then logistically, you have to get, the time of making sure you have their address collected, actually doing it, whether you do a direct ship service or you have an assistant or you do it yourself. It's going to take time and money, right? But it's very high value. Like getting something in the mail from someone that runs a community you're a part of, that's a very special experience. So it's certainly to do. So think, and like, how big is your community? So it just kind of depends. People have stickers. That's a very like kind of lower cost, lower mailing charge thing to send. But yeah, just kind of depends. It depends what you think they would like and what is reasonable for you on your end to distribute.
Fantastic. Here's a question from Michael. Just wondering, can you have a passive community? Chances are there's some members that might not have much to offer at this time. They will probably be the ones who need the most help, though, support and encouragement. This word passive obviously gets thrown around a lot. It is within the brand name, so I'll address that really quick. Passive does not mean you don't do any work. Passive does not mean that it's set and forget forever. So that's just number one. Like, it takes work, it takes energy to manage a community, even if it's just you or a team. Like it takes some work. But based on your scheduling and the programming, you can make things happen within certain times and stay sane. But with regards to Jillian, the community members who might be a little bit more quiet, those are the ones that likely need the most help. How do we engage with those people?
Yeah, so there's different and I'd encourage everyone to go look at our blog, the Smart Passive Income blog. Both Tony and I have done some community specific posts there that I think are relevant to this conversation. One of which being like I think it's like the 5 types of people in your community, right? And there's going to be the social butterfly, and then, for lack of a better term, I don't like this term, but like the lurker or the observer, like the person who's in the background and you don't know, like, are they happy? Are they there? Are you still in there? And those are the people you want to reach out to directly. Those are the people you send a message and say, hey, I just noticed you haven't like posted, etc. I just want to make sure everything's good. Can I help you find what you need? And sometimes they're like, no, I'm good. That's just how they consume community, or they message people privately. They don't want to be on the public stage. And that's okay. And like, personally, I respect that. That's who I am in other communities, because this is my job. It would be very easy for me to be really bossy and controlling about how a community should be. And I choose not to. So I'm on Reddit all the time. I only ever post comments of encouragement. I have a very like specific lane I stay in. I don't create my own content. And I insist on being very positive when I do interact with people, because of the other side of that as a community manager is very hard to deal with. And so I try to make community bright. But to Michael's, okay, because Michael had a couple of things here. And Michael, I don't fully understand what you're doing, but from what it sounds like you're looking to launch like a peer support type community, where it's peers supporting peers for encouragement, because they're in a place where they're in need in some capacity. Those can be very powerful communities. And there's some things you can there's some ways to set that up for success if you want to do it, but it will take work at the beginning, and also some work ongoing to just make sure. And what I would do if I was launching one of those, and I've worked in that capacity, and they're fantastic. You have to have very clear guidelines of what's allowed, what's not allowed. And then if there are people in your community, your existing audience, maybe, that are very passionate about this, see if they want to help. So they could be in charge of posting and replying to comments, and not being a community manager for free. You don't ever want to expect anyone to do that, but you can make people moderators. You can make people ambassadors. So you can have a program that people go through. Maybe there's, some curriculum involved, which I would recommend, like have some sort of onboarding process with expectations on their end of how to do things. What happens if something bad happens? How do they escalate that, and to whom, and when, things like that. There's a lot you can do. I'd love to just talk to you about it in general. Feel free to email me, and I'm happy to give you some ideas. But know that it will take, like, the establishment, the setting up of, will take some serious time, not serious time, but like that will take effort and time. And then once it gets going, you're able to step out a bit, but I would never launch a community and not expect to be involved in some capacity every week.
Nice.
Not that you said you'd do that, but I'm just saying.
Some great questions coming in. I'll get to those in just a minute. I see one from Christine Joseph, and I think a few other people asked that same question earlier. And it's about transitioning from one community to another, whether Facebook or another platform into another. How do we not lose a whole bunch of people in that transition? But real quick, 3 things. Number 1, if you are interested in beginning to start a community and you're looking for a platform that you can control a little bit more, that you have access to and can actually manage those experiences a little bit better than you might on, for example, something like Facebook, we highly recommend checking out Circle. I'm an affiliate. We are affiliates to Circle, and I'm also an advisor to the company, full disclosure. And we highly recommend it. We use it for SPI Pro and our SPI Academy. And if you want to go through our affiliate link and give us some support, all you have to do is go to smartpassiveincome.com/circle. Once again, it's smartpassiveincome.com/circle, and you'll be taken care of. That team over there, Andrew and Sid, are absolutely amazing. They've taken care of us, and there's a lot of fun things planned in the realm of community software that they are coming out with that I'm not allowed to share with you right now, or else you might not see me ever again. Number 2. SPI Pro. We've talked about SPI Pro quite a bit today, and we know that you might be interested in joining. If you want to check it out, there's in fact an application process, and it's definitely worth your time, even if you don't get in, because we actually support you even if you don't get in. We'll help you along the way so that you can be qualified to come in. We're looking for people who have existing businesses, even small ones, but you are dedicated to your audience and your service to them, and you want to connect with other like-minded entrepreneurs. All you have to do is go to smartpassiveincome.com/pro. Again, smartpassiveincome.com/pro. We will be opening the next cohort and the next enrollment period very soon. So make sure to fill out those applications, and we would love for you to be a part of SPI Pro, and again, help you if you're not quite ready for it as well. Plus, you can go there and just see what the application process is like, go through those questions, and we'd love to have you and have you become a part of this group. It's so amazing, as you can tell, and there's a lot of SPI Pro members here. Third and finally, and Jonathan just mentioned this in a link, and you might want to share again, we have a podcast that's dedicated purely to community and community experience. And it's hosted by these 2 amazing people who are here with me right now, Jillian and Tony, the Community Experience Podcast. Tony,
Tony looked familiar. That's where I know you from.
Any a quick plug for Community Experience Podcast before we answer this, maybe 1 or 2 more questions and finish up.
Yeah, we have found just some remarkable people with some really valuable perspectives to share on what it takes to build a effective and sustainable and meaningful community. And I'm just continuously amazed by the perspectives that we get. And it's all very accessible, I think. As opposed to certain entrepreneurs, it's hard to kind of, imitate exactly what they do. With community, everybody can learn something from everybody that we interview. And I at the very least, they're really interesting folks.
Love it. Thank you, Tony. Give us some ideas on what our next Open Circle should be about. I know there's a lot of questions here about launching and marketing your community. That could be a really interesting topic. We'll figure it out, and we'll send you an email a little bit later with regards to the date and timing of that, because we want to offer that to you. And again, that's all free here on YouTube and our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button too. That helps with the algorithm very much so. Transitioning from one community platform to another, Jillian. Whether it be Facebook or another one. I know some people who use maybe older platforms to host their community, and now they're wanting to go into Circle, for example. How do we communicate with the people who are in our current community to best allow them to transition and migrate to the new platform for that better experience?
I'm glad you asked. So this is something I've helped a few people do. And it's absolutely doable. I would find the platform you want to move to. Okay. I would not recommend, if you're going to do a paid community and you're currently in a free model on Facebook, would strongly discourage you from trying to stay there. Go and pay for a platform that becomes your platform that you own. You have all your user data, all of that, because then if something goes down or whatever, you have backup. That's a conversation to have over cocktails, but let's just assume you're on whatever platform and you want to move to a paid membership structure over here on new platforms. You have to get everybody to move, and it's very scary. One, you're going to lose people along the way, 100%. It's okay. So what you want to focus on is the people who want to come with you and are willing to pay, or if it's free, just want to come with you. Don't stress about it. You'll lose. It's like anything. You'll lose a few along the way. They probably weren't that engaged anyways. You were going to lose them, or they were just vanity members, right? Like they weren't an actual member. So the first thing is you want to tell people, hey, I think this is what we're moving to. Are you interested? And start, whether it's a wait list or a sign up, start collecting data of the people who are like, let's do it. And by the way, those are your super users, the people who are just like, hoorah, rah, and they're going to follow the Congo line when you make a sharp left. And they're like, we're going to keep going. Da, da, da. So get those people, capture their information so you know who they are. Reach out into like message, private, like one-on-one invitation to people that you really want to come. And if you're running a community, you know who those people are. You have those people that are just awesome. You love them. They're great. Invite them personally and talk to them personally about like, hey, you're coming, right? Like, here's the info. And if they're like, ooh, I don't know, that's when you can be like, whoa, wait, what, why? Like find out what their hesitation is. That's probably something you want to know anyways, right? But try, like, without being pushy, try to make sure the your people are along for the ride and you have that buy-in, because then they can start posting in your community too about being excited about this next step, this journey. I signed up. I can't wait. Tell people why they should come. What's going to be different about it, especially if you're going from free to paid. What's the advantage to the member? Why are they going to start paying you for something that's been free? You can't just move them over and do same, unless you've been, there's circumstances, but there should be something they're getting out of it that adds that value, that cost value add. So make sure that's very clear and make it exciting. So once you've collected and you kind of have that thing, what you want to do is be like, okay, we're going to have, we're going to open the doors to our founding members. We have founding members in the chat right now. Founding members, feel free to shout out that you're a founding member. I think Brenda, I saw for sure. There's more.
It's quite a few. Yeah.
By the way, Brenda's outdoor photography school. But there's a few founding members. So our founding members, it was like this exciting, like you're the first ones in and you get a badge forever that says you're a founding member. You're part of a group. We had a big 1-year anniversary party with all the founding members to celebrate because they're the ones that made it happen. If they hadn't joined, it would be nothing. So they're super important to us, and make that known when you're inviting people. Like you're the crew, you've got it. So start getting those founding members and have programming that's going to be happening, have a big kickoff, right? So our founding members are joining from this date to this date. They're going to get XYZ. They're going to get bonuses. They're grandfathered into things that we might charge more for later. Like it's like, you have to join as a founding member, and then you do it and expect less. It's okay. Once those people come in, now start with the programming. You're taking screenshots of like on camera with people or whatever it is. Start showing the people who did not come how amazing it is, how much fun you're having, right? You want the FOMO on high, and not just to like trick people into joining, right? You want them to see like, look what we're doing now that we have the resources because it's paid, because we're on this platform, whatever it is, look how happy we are, and get people to come. And I think coming off of Facebook can be hard because there are still people on Facebook and they like the convenience of everything being there. But keep in mind, there's a lot of people not on Facebook that aren't going to join your group if it's on Facebook. And so don't forget about those people. When all these announcements and things are happening, you should be talking to your email list, your social media, everything. Like this should be a confluence of all the places you're known, bringing them in.
Samson says the lava lamp needs to slow down. See, it wasn't just me. That was an amazing answer. I love what you said about getting excited about the move, because when you're excited about the move, you can get other people excited about it too. You got to sell it, right? You got to use your marketing brain a little bit and sell it. Here's why we're going to go through the pain of having you do this. And by the way, you also want to make it simple for them to do. Click this one link.
Yeah.
Fill in this one thing in this form, and then you're in, right? Or however easy, like whatever the easiest is. But I think that showing them like what that's going to unlock for the community and how it's going to take it to the next level is going to be really key. If you approach this move as, all right, guys, this platform's terrible and we're going to have to move. So it's going to take some time and we just got to deal with it. Okay. But I promise you it's going to get better there. It's like that's very underwhelming. Right. And you kind of actually already answered another question that came in about launching, the idea of launching with a founders group and utilizing the stories from within to promote on the outside. Similar to kind of what we're doing here, right? There's a lot of pro members here talking about how awesome it is. And,
behind the curtain,
Meta without the Facebook. And so this is what we do. We don't just say these things, we do these things, right, at SPI. And we're always happy to share openly, hence open circle, about these kinds of things. And again, we invite you to apply to Pro if you'd like to check it out. I saw a bunch of people actually already telling me that they were going to do that, which is amazing.
Yay.
And
I will see your application on the other side of that. So
yeah, we hope to see you there, and check it out, smartpassiveincome.com/pro. And we're going to reserve a lot of these topics for specifically other open circles that are going to come in the near future. I think a marketing win would be really great to get more people into your communities, and how to do that. And some of the nuances about that would be really neat. How to keep and retain community members, especially as, another billing cycle might roll around, all those kinds of things. Let me know in the chat before we go. 2 things to do for me. Number 1, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. This channel has grown quite huge, thanks to the team at SPI. This is not the Pat Flynn YouTube channel. This is the SPI one, with mostly featuring Mindy, actually, in the videos, with solutions for stuff. But number 2, type me in the comment section if you're going to be focusing pretty heavily on community in 2022. So just type in me. We'll get to see who that is. This is your sort of pledge to, yes, me, I'm going to be doing it, and we're here to help you along the way too. We'll send you an email very shortly with regards to the replay link. Obviously, this is the link right here. It's going to live right here, but we'll send you some follow-up. We'll probably send you a link as well to the first open circle, so you have both in one spot. The first one is really great, led by Jay. And perhaps we'll give you some info on the next one soon. If not in this upcoming email, then definitely one later. But look at this. We have a whole bunch of me's coming in. Tony.
Yay.
Tony, I'm glad you're focusing because you're on the team. Lift Your Coaching Business, Elizabeth, Mike, Ellen, Mastering Muse Score, Jonathan, Breakthrough Color, John from Tree Checkup, Brendan from Outdoor Photography School. It's Christine Joseph, Shinono, Ashby. I'm not going to read the rest of the names because you can see them. Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming in. Jillian, this was awesome. Any final words before we finish up today?
Have fun in your community and be kind.
Love it. Tony?
Take care of yourself. Keep it simple. Focus on doing something really great and listen to your members.
Yes. And I'll finish with, we're here for you. Looking forward to seeing you the next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.